find at the end of a relationship, it's such a great time to reassess everything. It's like all the questions can come
Yeah.
up. But I think there's something about slowing down and asking ourselves the important questions. I mean, what was it that made me give up my social circle for this person? Like, what was that all about? Like, maybe even a why question, like, why did I give all of my energy to this one exclusive person when I had this social circle going on? And there could be multiple reasons why you did it, and not to feel bad about it, but to just notice that that pattern developed in you.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the WayThrough Podcast. We're so excited that you're here joining us today, and it's going to be an interesting conversation. We have a couple of questions that have come in from our listeners and our community that we're going to be chatting about today. And if you were brand new to listening to the WayThrough Podcast, a big welcome. For those of you that are curious, WayThrough.com is a community of people going through heartbreak, trying to navigate their relationships. And us here as coaches are here to help support you through the process. We're also part of it too. We've gone through it before. We understand relationships, a lot of the angles of it, and how to navigate all of the complexities. So this podcast, we answer your burning questions about relationship, especially breakups. And we're here to help and to support each other as we're literally trying to find our way through the complexities of this life. So with that being said, welcome to all of the coaches from our community today. We've had a couple of burning questions from our community. And so I'm just going to read the first one here. Anonymous, they said, I recently went through a breakup, and I'm noticing that I lost connection with all of my friends while I was in the relationship. And I'm wondering how to get my friend group back, my social circle back, and how to get support as I'm going through the processing of the ending of this relationship. So I'm going to put that out there to everybody to see what comes up. What a challenging place to be when you've put all of your heart into one person and it's become super exclusive, and then it ends and you're almost completely an island. You're like, now what? How do I get my friend group back? So I'm curious what comes up for all of the coaches here.
You know, the first thing that comes up for me when I hear this is priorities, right? Like our priorities are not static. They change sometimes every day, every week, every month. So what I like about this is the person saying, okay, my priorities are shifting back into friendship. Personally, I think it can be great if we are honest with ourselves that, yeah, my priority was my partner. And that can be beautiful for a relationship to make our partner the number one thing, right? If you do not prioritize something, it will slip away. And so if I'm that friend, I might be having my own feelings and attachment things come up if I am noticing my friend disappear every time they have a partner. So I'm thinking about all the proactive things that can happen before you even get into that place where you're dissing your friends or moving away from them, and being honest with them and saying, hey, my priorities are shifting. I'm moving more. Like, you know how much it means to me to be in a loving, committed relationship, and I want to give it everything. And so I'm going to be focusing on that a little bit more. Just know that I love you and I want to be there for you and continue to be in friendship, but it might look a little bit different. And then talk about their bare minimum needs for friendship. I believe that friendships are situational and they can be consciously loyal, right? Where we stay in them no matter what. So in a good friendship, to me, there's agreement and there's awareness about what's happening. And there can also be, some understanding and support around like, yeah, go do that. Like go reach those goals. Like go have that amazing partnership.
Thanks, Courtney. What else is coming up just in this space?
Well, when you mentioned that specific question and like just that way of being where when you're in a relationship, then everything else falls to the wayside and your just whole world becomes that person. that was me in the past, and it just really doesn't work because it's too much. It's too much to make your one person your everything, right? Which I think is really the program that we're fed, in society and movies and rom-coms and Disney movies and things like that. But what I had to learn is how to make the relationship like a slice of the pie, and then make sure that your life is still balanced in other areas rather than making it the whole pie. Because the whole pie, it's very risky, right? Because anytime something happens or something shifts, you're really not okay. Versus when you're anchored into other areas of your life, like maybe your work or exercise or health and wellness or friendships, then you have those other places to hold you, even when the relationship is not feeling solid or if there's a breakup. But I think it takes a village. So we need community. We need our friends. And if you're in a scenario here where it's like, I don't have a lot of friends because I wasn't prioritizing them, you might have to go to some of your friends and like actually own that and make amends and say like you like to do things differently if they're open to it, and kind of be humble and be accountable in that way to show up as a good friend, because that kind of sucks, somebody like, I get it how that happens with people, but also if you just fall off the earth completely, you might have to humble yourself a little bit to repair that relationship with your friends.
Yeah, thanks, Jess. Bonnie, Drew, do you want to weigh in on this question?
I love everything that Courtney and Jess that you're saying. I can imagine scenarios where both. So the really respectful sort of disengagement with the friend, it's saying, I'm going in. However, I really lean towards a holistic, more integrated life. And so if your friendships are your ride or dies, and they are helping you stabilize through all of the ups and downs, whether it's a loss of a relationship or a loss of a loved one or a job or whatever the loss is, it's your community that helps you to navigate those storms. And so when we lose our sense of self and merge in relationship with another, we're like a little ship bobbing on the ocean without an anchor. And so I am a big fan on interdependence. So, and interconnection with each other. So you don't lose yourself. And you also aren't really independent where your primary relationship is then secondary to your friends. It's not about that. It's finding that weaving in. And like you said, Courtney, sometimes you'll shift into, well, during this week, I'm more focused on my partner. And this week I'm more focused on my friends. But it's this healthy balance. And what I would also say is at the end of a relationship, there can be real freedom in getting to know yourself again. You may not want all of those old friends. Mm-hmm. They may not have been a healthy community for you. And so it's a great time to realign with what's your intention moving forward. What's your intention now? It will be different than before the relationship. It will be different than yesterday, maybe. What's your intention now? And what's the environment? Maybe you moved for a partner and now that location is not what's supportive for you. Maybe you move back to where you used to live. That's what felt home. And who are the friends and all of that really support the person who you choose to be now, who underneath the surface of all the chatter is who you ultimately are. And that's the deepest support from my perspective, this interdependence where you don't lose yourself. You bring who you are fully into a relationship, and that includes friends.
Life's biggest moments aren't always easy. Breakups, divorce, parenting challenges, sometimes you just need a way through. That's where WayThrough comes in, a new app built to help you navigate life's toughest chapters with confidence. Inside the app, you'll find expert coaches offering group and one-on-one sessions, a supportive community of people who truly get what you're going through, and a library of checklists, webinars, and resources designed to guide you step by step. And when you just need a boost, turn into Breakthrough TV, where you'll get quick, powerful insights from podcast episodes and coaches who care. You don't have to go in alone. Download WayThrough today and discover a new way forward together. Remember, you're not an island.
Thanks, Bonnie. I love that. I want to circle back to this place of interdependence because I've been hearing this coming up a lot in our community, and I'd love to chat a little more about that in a moment. But Drew, I'd love for you to weigh in too, just to kind of get your initial
sure.
thoughts.
Absolutely. I think what everyone has said about priorities is super important when it comes to relationships and friendships. We need to be able to prove not only to ourselves, but to our friends that we're ready to commit and be a good friend again, and not shift those priorities completely and make it our whole pie, as Jess was saying. So I think it's really up to us in those situations. If we are really wanting to reconnect with those friendships, that we're really proving not only to ourselves, but to those friends that we're ready to make a effort and prioritize them and that connection, so that, as Bonnie said, when we go through those rough times, we still have that support network that's there for us at every moment, at every turn. And I couldn't agree more with that, because family and friends are the two most valuable connections that we have, because it's exactly that. They're there in those moments of trauma and hardship that we can rely on and lean on for that support. And I think we tend to do this with family too, not just friends. When we prioritize the relationship and we make it our whole pie, we don't just push away friends, we push away family too. And that can be really, really damaging as well, because family's blood. So there's that deeper connection, and it can almost feel more disrespectful. And I have family that have done that in the past, and making that reconnection is so much harder. So it's really up to the person who is wanting to make that connection to really take the onus and put that effort in and prove that they're ready to make that connection and prioritize that friendship.
I find at the end of a relationship, it's like, it's such a great time to reassess everything. It's like all the questions can come
Yeah.
up. If we're willing to go there. Many of us, we just kind of dodge it and just get busy in another relationship. But I think there's something about slowing down and asking ourselves the important questions. And so for this person that just wrote into us, I feel like this is a perfect time to be asking this question and to also self-reflect on the question. I mean, what was it that made me give up my social circle for this person? Like, what was that all about? Like, maybe even a why question, like, why did I give all of my energy to this one exclusive person when I had this social circle going on? And there could be multiple reasons why you did it, and not to feel bad about it, but to just notice that that pattern developed in you. My intuition, this might be you, this might not be you if you're listening back to this, but my intuition says most likely there was a fear in you that you were going to lose this person if you spread your time between them and everybody else. And this is definitely a possibility, right? And I've had this in the past too, in relationships where I don't want to lose that person. And for me, I've come to find it's sort of my anxious attachment that's like, oh, if I tell this person I'm seeing, I don't have time right now because, you know, I've got to go to a family event, or I've got a friend I'm hanging out with. My fear is that this person that I'm seeing is going to think, oh, they're not into me anymore. Or they're going to jump ship or abandon me. So it's like this sort of barter that I unconsciously make with that person, going like, I need to keep you in my life, so I'll do whatever it takes. And then all of a sudden you find yourself in that pattern. But underneath it, right, to sit with the question of like, why am I doing this? Or what is making me give up my life for this person so exclusively? It's very interesting what might emerge. So it might be a question to sit with and, you know, journal on or just reflect on. Yeah, I'm
So
seeing a lot
good.
of heads nodding. So anyone else
Yeah.
want to add to this? I'm sure there's more to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
There's
love that you
another
brought that. Oh, sorry,
Go ahead.
Courtney.
So there's another part of the dynamic that I'm
No, you
aware
go.
of, which is
You
we're
go. I'll
talking
go.
about we move away, right? But then what happens when our friends move away because of the relationship that we're in, right? Because they might not like the person that we're hanging out with. And there's all sorts of reasons that can happen, right? And Bonnie, you were saying, like, what happens if maybe we are outgrowing our friend group and we're moving more towards the relationship that is aligned for us? That's an opportunity to move into that space with this other person. And maybe it's time to say goodbye to some friendships, but maybe our friends move away because they're uncomfortable with the person that we're becoming, or that we've let go of ourselves to that person in that quest to kind of have that, to not be left, right? To not be abandoned. So I think about also situations where friends leave and what we can do. And I know that as somebody who tends towards reaching out for connection, I would want to go to those friends and be like, hey, what's going on? Give me the deal. Like, tell me what you really think here, and get their honest feedback about what they're seeing. And then put that through my own filters of who I know them to be. And are they doing this out of the highest good for me, that they're having a hard time being proximal to this? Or do they have their own motives or their own hurts and pains that are influencing this? I think that friends can also approach this delicately with a lot more transparency, and they can say, hey, I know you're really into this person, and are you open to receiving feedback from me on what I'm seeing over there? And if they are, then you give them that feedback from your own perspective, your own uh, filters, right? You say, this is just my perspective over here. It might not be what you're experiencing. This is what I'm seeing, and this is what I'm afraid of watching you get fully absorbed with this person.
I love that. I like the idea of doing a little inventory after, just to kind of reflect on, okay, what happened here? Like you said, Keith, what had me kind of shift my focus and maybe get a little too, like, lose myself in the relationship, and then my friendships were impacted. And then looking at even deeper, like, what are the patterns that are showing up for me? And like, are these people, like, if you want to go back and try to reconnect with some of your friends, are they people that are aligned? Or maybe it's just not a match anymore, and that's okay. But the thing that I've learned is the more that we expand and grow, the more we're going to have to work with our circles kind of shifting up and changing around, because it's no longer aligned if you're on a path of growth like that a lot of times. So there's grief associated with that too, where you're growing and expanding, and some people won't come with you, but there's always going to be people that are on that at the next kind of phase of development or healing, which I found. I mean, I didn't believe that for a while. There were times where I would lose, like, when I stopped drinking, for example, I lost like all my drinking friends. And now I'm like, who cares? But like at the time, it was really painful. And I see that with my clients, as they're growing and shifting, they're like, oh, it's not really aligned anymore with my friendships. So that could be something else that's playing into it too, even like beyond the relationship ending. Maybe it's not just, there's not a lot of alignment with those friendships. I don't know. It's very nuanced, all this stuff, always.
Mm-hmm.
It's all very nuanced. Indeed, I agree.
Juicy.
One more question that just comes up around this that you might consider asking yourself is this question of like, what is this saying about me right now, and where I'm at in regards to my growth and development? What does this say about me? Like, where are my priorities, and why are these my priorities? As Jess was saying early on in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But all of this, the thing I love about breakups, even though breakups are often very horrendous and challenging, is that they really do give us this opportunity to reassess and reevaluate and filter through all the different parts of ourself and decide what's important now, what's not important now. And we're constantly in this state of evolving. And it's like this, gaining and then letting go. It's like, it's so interesting. I've really thought about this since my last relationship, that the next person that I choose to be in relationship with, as soon as I sign up to be in relationship with them, I'm going to be grieving like at the same time. They go hand in hand. So it's like, whoever I'm going to love, I'm also going to at some point grieve. And I might also be grieving some other aspects of my life by choosing to be in a certain relationship. It's like this give and take. So I just find it such a dynamic growth opportunity to be in relationship with another person. Should we move on to our next question? So thank you for those of you listening for sending in your questions every week. And we should mention WayThrough.com. If you go visit our community there, there's an opportunity to ask us your questions and we'll answer them here on the podcast. If you're going through a breakup or any relationship issue right now and you want some insight from our team, we're here to support you in that. So please go visit WayThrough.com and ask your juicy questions because we're here to answer them. And speaking of juicy questions, we have another one that's come in from one of our community members. And they wrote this. They said, I keep attracting partners that are not ready to commit. We date for several months and then only to find out that they're not ready. How can I change this pattern up so I find someone who wants a relationship as much as I do? Oof.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for sending that in.
Go ahead, Drew.
I just said, thank you very much for sending that in. That was a good question.
Yeah.
Really good
Just
one.
off the initial sort of response to that, and Keith, can you say that question again, just so that I can really capture it?
Absolutely. And I'm hearing some background noise.
Yeah,
too,
that was
so-
distracting for me.
I
So I'm
think
going,
it's
okay,
here.
what's happening?
I think it's at my place. It's like outside.
Can we
okay.
begin again on this?
San Francisco. Okay.
Can
there
we
go.
begin again on this one, Keith? Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just because I got thrown off by the back.
Sure. I'll just start from the question again. So speaking of juicy questions, we've got another one from one of our community members. And the question says, I keep attracting partners that are not ready to commit. We date for several months only to find out that the person is not ready. How can I change up this pattern so I find someone who actually wants the relationship as much as I do? Oof, that is a juicy question. And I think really common for a lot of people listening and probably for us here too.
I would be interested in the person who's asking that question, how comfortable they are in intimacy. How comfortable are they in being vulnerable? And to start to really question that for them, just to be curious with a real kind sort of co-pilot in that, to be curious about even my friendships or relationships with family, do I let myself be vulnerable? Do I allow myself to show up in a way that is a little bit scary? And answering that question first, because what we put out there, we attract. And so if we're not attracting someone who's willing to dive in with us into those deep, more intimate, more meaningful moments, we might be the one who could tweak our antenna out there and that sort of beacon. So just a thought. What do you guys think?
I think about this word mutuality, and I think about our definition or our blueprint for mutuality, right? I think that I've noticed in the past, I will commit too early or lean in hard too early, thinking that what we're experiencing is mutuality based on my own childhood blueprint for what connection is. When in fact, there's so much more that needs to take place for true mutuality, interdependence, co-creating together, right? So are we mistaking what we think is mutuality for what we might need, which is co-creating a relationship that is aligned? And I think that for me, the difference is when we're in that sort of hopeful mutuality, the key word there is hopeful, wishful thinking. And then the co-creating truly feels like you're co-creating, which means it might actually feel kind of messy because it will include each person's needs, wants, idea of what relationship means, and it will include the creation of a third entity, which is the relationship. And I know, Keith, you're so good at talking about that third entity that's being created of the relationship. But let's not forget that does take time, right? That's not like a super fast build usually.
I love that. I'm also thinking, just listening to this person's question. I'm thinking about. Sorry, I'm getting a lot of echo here. Sorry.
Jess, you got echo.
What's going on? Who is it?
How do I don't know what to do. Nothing changed, but I can
Check. Are you listening on headphones or on your computer speakers?
computer.
Well, maybe that's what's going on.
I never use headphones, so.
Oh, now it's gone. It's good.
Oh.
Weird. Okay, well, I'll answer again. Yeah, I'm just thinking about like listening to this person's question. It's interesting because this idea that you keep attracting somebody that doesn't want to commit. I think it like you were just saying, Courtney, it takes time to get to know somebody. And at the same time, we don't want to get into a relationship and waste our time with somebody that's just kind of playing us or wants what they call these days a situationship. So it's like this fine balance of, having the difficult conversation and putting it out on the table. This is what I'm looking for. What are you looking for? And also having that sort of romantic, playful, getting to know you space to see if there's compatibility. So I personally, I don't have specific advice because I think there's a lot of nuance to this question. But if I was in your shoes and I just got out of a relationship because the person wasn't willing to commit, and I was going into a new relationship at some point in the near future or far off future, I would be getting curious right away when I first meet somebody, like, as opposed to like, what is this person going to do from it? Like, who is this person and how can I keep them? I would be getting more curious about who is this person and what are they telling me based on their actions and their words, and like going in with the mindset of like, okay, who is sitting in front of me right now on this first date? And I think very, very quickly we can hear underneath the surface of what they're saying, what their intentions are. If we're paying attention and we're not getting swept up into the like over romantic kind of thoughts and feelings of a future that hasn't even come yet. But that's a challenging thing to do. But I would say like on the next date you go on, to go in with the curiosity of like, as opposed to like, where could this go and who is this person, and just getting into fantasy, can you just treat the next date you go on as like sort of based more in the reality of this moment? And what is this person saying? What's their actions like? What's their behavior like? And, just even listening on a deeper level of like, is this somebody that actually seems like they're wanting a commitment? Might be a helpful thing to consider.
Totally.
Mhm.
Yeah. I love that you said that, Keith. I love this whole conversation because this was basically my whole life story for a very,
Perfect.
very long time. So, because I think the person said that they keep having the same experience over and over again, right? With having
Yeah.
someone seems like they're more available than they are. And then as they get deeper in, then the person's not. Um, and I think the hack is like knowing yourself super well and then just owning it, like owning what you want and being unapologetic about it. And when you're dating, not necessarily saying that it has to be them, like, oh, I want this with you, like not necessarily that, but just like what I want for my life or what I'm looking for right now is this, and just owning it. And that way people who are aligned with that will resonate with you and people who aren't won't. But I think we get into trouble where maybe we're really attracted to the person or there's some things that we really like. And so we want it to go a certain way. And so we might be whatever, like maybe a little nervous to share what we want or whatever the stories are in our head that tell us to not show up fully as our authentic self. And then that creates challenges. But I love what you said, Bonnie, because it's kind of a tough pill to swallow. But the whole thing of like, if you keep attracting people that aren't fully available, what is it within you that's unavailable? Probably to your own self first. And that took a long time for me to get. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm so available. It's these people that aren't available. I'm the one that's available. But I'd be pouring into people that couldn't meet me at all. Right. And so it's them in my brain. Like, oh, they're the problem. They're the problem. But it wasn't until I actually looked at, oh my gosh, wait, what is my part here? Like, what am I, like, I need to become available to my own self and become unavailable to those people that are also unavailable. Right. But everything in me, in my subconscious and my wiring would draw me like a magnet into those situations over and over and over again. So I really feel for whoever sent this question in, but you can shift and rewire it. It just takes a little bit of time and healing your nervous system and actually building the capacity, as Bonnie was saying, for intimacy. Because if intimacy has been scary or we've been hurt, then it can be easier to, it's painful in another way, but to go towards people that can't really meet you there, because then you don't have to run the risk of fully being seen.
Hmm.
I would add too that, there's a line between being fully committed in a relationship that's fresh and love bombing, and to
Mhm.
notice the difference. Because if we're not emotionally regulated in other aspects of our life, and especially if someone is really longing for love, to have love towards them, to be received in that way, we can get lost in the romanticism, as you said, Keith, of it, and absolutely love bomb them. And that might just send them, either bring the wrong person or send the right one packing, and rightfully so. You want a healthy relationship, and love bombing is not the way to go. And in this society where everything is so instant gratification, there is less of a tendency to allow the slow simmer. Everybody gets excited to the fireworks, and there's nothing wrong with the honeymoon phase. There's nothing wrong with really getting connected, but that oxytocin can really play a number on us. And so how do we allow ourselves to just pump the brakes a little bit? Let's get to know each other first. And we'll always hear stories of, we had, my mentors had one date. They'd known each other for a long time. They were in different relationships. And so they didn't see each other that way. But as soon as, and the one person did not know the other person was separated, but as soon as they moved out of the house and were on their own, all of a sudden they saw each other. They hadn't been on each other's radar other than, casual friends. And boom, and they had one date. That is a rarity, my friends. It is a beautiful relationship they have. It's one that I aspire to. But it's a rarity. And so for the rest of us mere mortals, it's going, can I allow myself not to be distracted by the shiny fireworks? And it's not that that's not important to that connection. Absolutely. But we can get thrown off our center, and also sex, drugs, rock and roll, right? We can get thrown off our center in all sorts of ways, and then wake up in one morning and go, who is this person and who am I? I've lost myself in all of the ways that I've distracted from really being intimate with this person. So allowing this slow simmer to, as you said, Keith, be really curious, genuinely curious about this sacred being in front of you, this beautiful human who just wants to be happy too, just wants to be loved too. So that would be my piece. Pump the brakes a little bit. Get to
Bonnie,
know each
what
other.
I hear you saying there is that there's no harm in slowing things down. Yeah, I agree.
Can be really exciting. That buildup of the masculine and feminine charge can be really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's not for everybody, but give it a whirl if the rest isn't working. And as Einstein would, I'll paraphrase that, insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. Okay, well, if you're usually quick to get deeply connected with someone and leave your life and really jump in with both feet, see what it feels like just to feel that good tension build up, that electricity build up, that healthy, loving charge when you're so excited to get to know this person.
That's easy to say, but I have to just say,
Yeah,
when I meet somebody that I am attracted to and there's connection and we're going on dates and I'm like, oh my gosh, this could be my person, my tendency is to go quickly into like forecasting the future and fantasy. And all of this advice that we're talking about goes out the window. I'm just being honest. Like I end up in this space where then I'm not really listening to what's going on in front of me. And instead I'm just totally caught up in this idea of what this could be and the fantasy of it. But what's coming up for me is one thing that's been helpful, because I actually have gone through a number of relationships like this where, I date somebody for 7 to 10 months only to find out that they're just not ready or they don't want a commitment. And the one silver lining that I'll tell you, the person that asked this question, is the good thing here is at least you found out. And like, you know that this is not your person, and you know what you're looking for. Like, you know that you're actually now looking for somebody that does want to be committed as much as you do. And I think one learning for me that's come out of this kind of pattern is to get more direct quicker. I kind of had this tendency, and I still do, like my tendency is to kind of just let things simmer for a while and not get direct. But I think there is a gift. And for me, I call it an edge, like a place that I get uncomfortable in. But I think it's for the best of my growth, is to get really direct and go, okay, I'm looking for a committed relationship. How about you? Where are you at the moment? And laying the cards on the table quicker, without, this is the challenge though, without killing the buzz. But in some ways that actually can create more attraction when you're laying your cards out so directly. So it's a few more things that are coming up in my mind.
I'm really
It
curious.
really helps though if someone is very clearly, it really helps if you find out right away if someone is just looking for a situation.
Yeah.
So I agree with you on that, Keith. If they're just looking for a fun time, that's a whole different ballgame. And then you can find that out pretty quick.
Yeah.
First
And
date.
You can't, one of my business mentors said this to me, but I think it applies everywhere, that you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. So if you're just owning your truth and you're telling the truth, and it somehow, like messes it up, quote unquote, then it wasn't aligned to begin with, because you really can't say the wrong thing to the right person. And also I'm listening to this and I'm like in a new thing, and it's been going kind of fast, but like it's beautiful and super aligned, and I'm so clear. I am so clear on what I want, and so is he. So I think sometimes there's exceptions, and also when you're older and you've been through some stuff, it's like you just kind of know if it's aligned or not, and you don't know how it's all going to go. And also the beginning, like the honeymoon phase, is when like all the chemicals and hormones and everything, one of my mentors calls it the purple fog. You're in like the magical honeymoony phase, but then, what we were speaking of before, Drew, what you were saying about like getting into the more the integration phase once you move through the honeymoon phase, which is beautiful, but then the integration phase of like actually getting to see where this person is at and the things that come up because you're two humans, you realize like, oh, I'm a human, they're a human. We're going to have some human things to work through no matter what, no matter who it is. But is it someone that will actually show up and be devoted and committed to doing that? Or is it someone who's going to, the second it gets real, just be like, see ya?
Yeah. I'm also curious, Keith, when you were talking about how important it is to communicate up front what you want, that's a real struggle for me personally, and also for a lot of our listeners. So when you talk about that, beyond like generally, hey, I want a commitment, can you give an example of how people can communicate? Like, to what level of detail are they communicating what they want?
That's a great question. I'm not an expert on this, but some things that have been helping me build more of a direct communication is actually coming from a place of curiosity and deeper listening. So asking a direct, open-ended question and then really listening for where the person is and what they're saying. So open-ended question, for those of you listening and like, what is that? It's a question that's going to evoke an answer beyond yes and no. So, it's like asking somebody like, what's your thoughts on a committed relationship right now in your life? Might be one. And then just listen and see what they say. And out of that, you might get more curious and ask another direct question and listen. And as I'm listening, I'm at some level assessing, like, in reality right now, what I'm hearing, is this actually in alignment with what I'm looking for, as opposed to the mind story of just almost guessing or almost like putting this person on a pedestal thinking, oh yeah, like assuming that they already are what I think they are, instead of really listening to hear what they have to say. So that's one thing I think, is asking open-ended questions directly, like pointed, but open, so that you can get information from the person sitting across from you and start actually learning more about who they are. The other thing though, I think that's really important is, and it might help to like preface it with, would you be open to some like an honest, truthful an honest, truthful question or an honest, truthful part of myself, and like asking for permission, and then just literally being really direct. I'm looking for a committed relationship. What about you? Which is a closed question, but you might do that too. So I don't know. I think curiosity and questions are really key. Anyone else? So I'm curious about that, just in terms of getting direct.
Drew, what's your experience?
I'm fairly direct with questions and what I'm looking for generally. I think for me, it's checking in. I think those check-ins are important, and I don't want to say setting a date on the calendar to check in with someone is what you need to do, but I think in order to make sure alignment is there, check-ins have to happen. And I know those can be sort of uncomfortable, but I've found success in having check-ins. They generally help you put out those little fires before they grow into massive, massive house burners. So definitely, I think checking in with your partner is important. But as we've all kind of spoken to throughout the episode as well, is checking in with yourself and seeing how you're feeling, where you're at, what your priorities are in those moments. We go through so much change as people that we may not be the same person we were a couple months ago. Our priorities might have changed. And if we're not doing those regular check-ins, I think that's where that purple fog can sort of happen too, where we're just like, we're lost in the sauce and we can't really prioritize what we want. So it makes it difficult for us to even have those check-ins with a partner because we don't even know what the hell we're doing. So I think personal check-ins are important, and I think relationship check-ins are important too. But more importantly, checking in with yourself.
I'm seeing like this
continuum.
continuum.
Just the courage of being. Oh, I think we have a delay going on.
We have a
here.
big delay.
Yeah, I think so too. Because
Go
we
ahead,
keep
Courtney.
like doing.
Go ahead, Courtney. You started.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think we have this continuum, right, of being in the purple haze and kind of unaware of what's going on and just in that infatuation zone versus I want a committed relationship. I want 2 cats. They need to be Siamese cats. I want you to buy me flowers every week. I want to live in Northern Canada and then fly down to Florida in the winter, right? Like there's this whole spectrum of like giving them everything that we want and need to a T, to the point where it might be hard for them to even conceptualize being in a relationship with us because of all the requirements there, to like, we're in this zone of like, we'll accept anything about each other. So what I'm playing with in my own mind as we're here is like, where's the sweet spot of like giving them the information they need so that your general trajectory is aligned. And if it's not, you hit the road, versus like allowing for this gray space too of evolving together, because you are going to change in relationship, right? Because everything is relational. So who you are right now will change when you're with them every day, every week, every month. And your needs and your wants might even change based off of that. So anyway, I'm curious to hear what you all have to say or think about that.
I think like the thing is interesting is like there isn't a formula really. And there's like best practices, I think. Like there's things that we can practice and showing up in like as conscious, loving way as we can or as possible. But I think every situation is a little different, but also what we need and want will change and shift. And so just, I think knowing yourself is the biggest like hack, if there is a hack, of just staying connected to yourself, knowing yourself, asking for what you need, being available for conversations, and like hoping that you grow with the other person, because you never know. You never know how long it's going to be aligned, which I don't like. You never know. There's no guarantees with anything. So
Isn't that the truth?
I'm just hearing this. I'm just hearing this theme coming up of like really listening to ourself, and this idea of, I think there's something to be said too for really listening intuitively. Like, what is the regular thought or feeling that's coming up when I'm with this person? And if it keeps coming up and nudging at you, I mean, ask the question or put it out there on the table and see how that other person responds. And their response will tell you a lot about whether this is somebody that you're wanting to dance with or not. So you have nothing to lose by just being completely honest and true to yourself. And just when you get those intuitions, put them out there and just see if you're able to dance with your partner or not.
I totally agree. On that note, Keith, what I would add to that great advice is also to really pay attention, especially if, there's so much online dating and all of that right now, especially if it's, or even if you walk into a room and you see someone with your friends or whatever it is, pay close attention to your initial response of them.
Mm-hmm.
Pay close attention. So often we get this open or closed response to something or someone. And then they start talking and they're very charming or they're a little bit off-putting, whatever end of the spectrum it is. Pay attention to your initial read on that, your initial intuitive hit on that. It is always the most accurate. If you're not in your head, if you're in your heart when you walk in, pay attention to that because it'll give you a lot of information around, is this a move forward or is this a close call, great diversion? I'll move out of that one and won't spend time there. So really let it happen early on rather than later on. Paying attention to those little signs would be my peak.
Yeah. That's so important, Bonnie, because I remember distinctly with a past relationship that I had, the first time I saw him, I thought, oh no. Oh. And then what you said happened, like things shifted. And then I ended up dating him and it was a big oh no. It was an oh no from the beginning. Should not have gone down that road, but lots of learning. But I think what can come up too, at least I know with my clients and what's happened with me in the past too, is like the scarcity mentality of like, oh my gosh, I finally found somebody that I'm interested in. And what if I say something or do something and then it makes it go away? And what if there isn't someone else that's more aligned, So that fear can be running the show. But someone said to me years ago, and it was really, really good advice, to say no more often, to really just get comfortable with saying no when things aren't aligned, to allow things that are aligned to find you. And it really does work. It's really effective. But again, you have to know yourself to know what's aligned to say no. Yeah. And then I think, everyone's going to have their stuff too. So you have to just know what are your must-haves? What are the things that you really, really need in order to move forward and continue to explore? Because that's all we're doing. Like the first 3 months, especially, are just the observer phase of really getting to know someone and seeing, how are they in certain situations and when certain things come up. And then over time, we gather more information, we build more trust. But what are your must-haves? And then what are the things that are absolutely a no for you? What are your deal breakers? And then from there, you can have some wiggle room, gray area with anything in between. And it's always unfolding, right? Like I have all my clients make a list of what they want, the qualities of what they want in a partner, and then practice becoming those qualities themselves. But it's ever evolving because you're always meeting new people and having new experiences. And then it's like, oh, that's a great quality. I like that. Let me add that into my list. And then how do I become a person who's magnetic to someone who has these qualities? Well, I have to be these qualities too. So I like that way of going about it.
I would say too that it really depends where you are in your life. If I'm in my 20s, my interest in relationship will be very different than if I'm in my 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. It'll just, each phase of our life, we have a different intention for ourselves and we're wanting something. So in your 20s, oh my God, have lots of fun. Date, get to know yourself through relationship, have fun, don't settle down. That's mine. And I could get, torched for saying that. But at the 20s, we don't know who we are yet. We're figuring it out. We just are individuating from our parents for the second time. We do a bit of that at teenager, and then we do it again as we leave home and get into the world. Let yourself have fun and explore. Let it be the honeymoon, and you're going to fall a million times, and that's okay. Make lots of mistakes. That's where we grow. That's where we discover what are we made of, let alone the person that fell with us. And then generally, then it's once we're getting with a bit more experience, we get a bit clearer on who we are, so that then we can go, okay, this is who I am, at least for now. And this is what I'm longing for, and I'm willing to commit to in my life, and attract someone with a similar intention. So, Courtney, what's your thoughts on that, or anything that's been said?
My thought is, hearing all of you, that the least common denominator for finding that aligned relationship is how well you know yourself. And so my next natural question then is, well, how does one actually know themselves? And I'm hearing, Bonnie, you say, well, they need to have these experiences that will have them check in with themselves and get to know themselves, right? As like this mirror in being in relationships. So experiential. And then, Jess, I also heard you say, like, sit down and actually think about just like, what are your needs and what are your wants? What are your deal breakers, right? And I'm curious if anyone has any things I mean, that could be an entire podcast, right? Itself is like, how do you know yourself?
Yeah.
So are there any others that come to mind based on, like, Drew or Keith, based on your experiences? I'm curious.
I think listening to my body is a really important part of that, because I can get really stuck in my mind story of what I think's happening externally. But if I listen to my somatic body, often
Yeah.
there'll be a feeling in my body. It'll be like, a gut feeling, or sometimes it'll just be a tightening in the chest, or sometimes it'll be like the body feels really open and just wants more of what I'm experiencing. But really listening to those sensations in the body beyond the story in my mind can be really helpful to know, or point me towards what is true for me in the moment.
I would 100% agree with that. I think for me, that's been the most important, I guess, superpower, is just being able to see and check in with how you're actually feeling in your body yourself. I took acting. I was like in honors acting throughout university. And one of the biggest things that you learn is to do like a full body scan to see where you're at, how you're feeling. And one of the biggest things was like getting to neutral and being able to take yourself from those heightened emotions and bring yourself into a space where you are completely free of any emotion and you're just able to see things from like a non-biased perspective. Now, in acting school, that was so that you could step into a character. But in real life, you can use these tactics to sort of check in on your surroundings yourself. And not that you're going to step into a character, but you want to step into the stuff that you want. And I think everyone has sort of spoken to that this episode, is not pretending and not sort of satiating this fake self or what you think you might want, right? It's really sort of listening. And I think, listening to your body is one of the most important ways that you could do that. Because if you're not feeling good, you're feeling off, like Keith said, you've got that tight chest in those moments where your senses are heightened, you'll know if you're paying attention. You just really, then that's about slowing things down too. So
I'm loving all this collective wisdom that's being generated in this conversation. And I'm so appreciating those of you that are listening to the podcast and asking these really great questions that get us all thinking about relationships and ourselves. And I just feel like this whole process of being in relationship with ourselves and others is really this opportunity to keep evolving and growing and learning. And it isn't a static thing. It's ever evolving. So if you're listening to the podcast and you're wanting to deepen into even more of this kind of inquiry, we want to invite you to join us at WayThrough.com, where we have a community of people, like-minded people that are sorting through relationship and finding their way through the different aspects of relationship. You can join our community there. We also offer coaching sessions, both group coaching sessions and one-on-one individual sessions. For those of you that are like, ooh, group sessions, I don't know if that's going to be a comfortable space for me. I would challenge you to consider coming to a group session. We have sort of what's called a free live Q&A every week. So if you want to just get sort of a sample of what that's like, we create a safe space for you to show up. And there's something really powerful about being in a group of people that are going through similar experiences. There's a collective energy that you can't get in a one-on-one session. So definitely check that out. And be sure to subscribe as well to our podcast channel, WayThrough, the podcast you're on right now. And yeah, we want to thank you guys so much for tuning in today. And thank you to the coaches for all of this wonderful wisdom you've been sharing. And until next time, we'll see you on the next episode of WayThrough.